calling 915-544-KTSM, 915-544-5876, or comment online on our stream at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. It's 4 p.m. Mountain Time, and that means it's time to talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I am your host, Andrew J. Polk. Thank you for tuning in, however you may be doing so, be it on air, online, live streaming through the free and reliable iHeartRadio app, or joining us over on the various social media pages that we are up on these days, facebook.com/Talk El Paso, the Talk El Paso channel over on YouTube, Twitter at Talk El Paso, or twitch.tv, Andrew J. Polk. I'm already chiming in there, including Patriot Chick, a beautiful day in the neighborhood, a little bit chilly for my taste, but well, not it's going to get worse overnight, unfortunately. Sorry, not trying to be the weather channel here, but people, pipes, pets, plants, etc. Keep those in mind as we're going to be getting down from our news partners there into the teens overnight. So I'll take the day for what it's worth, absolutely. But a bunch of other stuff going on and affecting us here in the borderland as more of the remembrances and honoring the life of and the funeral services, all of those plans now moving forward and coming into place today and tomorrow for the now late Chief of Police, Greg Allen, for the city of El Paso. Some of those commemorations and honoring of him, including the lying in state, happening immediately after our program this evening. And then, of course, with the actual plans for the funeral procession, those kind of things, some road closures that we'll talk about as, of course, our news partners at KFOX 14 will bring you live coverage of the whole thing, but just, forewarn for them, know what's going on there. And then a few other things that we've been meaning to talk about, including what we couldn't quite get to yesterday, some of those updates, state, federal, but locally based enforcement numbers, both on terms of apprehensions, in terms of seizures, and just, sheer amounts. Delving further into that and leading us into a further conversation about an argument that I've been told about and therefore looking more into about what the actual point of the recent presidential visits was, as we also have Ida Beza Gardner over on the social media. Hello to you as well. So demonstrating there, of course, that you can make your comments, add your 2 cents by heading over to those social pages, the reason we mentioned there. And RJ saying that, yes, it is. And then I checked the mail without a jacket. Hope you still got all of your 10 fingers and toes going on there. Okay, it's not that bad, but let's just say getting the trash out for myself last night I was very unhappy when I didn't take out the jacket. So beautiful day enough, but we got those weather changes still going on here. Also a note, though, what we're going to be talking about a little bit today, a preview of something we got coming up for you later this weekend on continuing education, particularly for those 50 plus with the Osher Lifelong Learning Institute over at UTEP. Just again, a simple note there as we getting closer to the end of this week and make a good idea to mention other things. Matt Olson, also yo to you as well. And again, keep those comments coming in over on the social media throughout there, as we also have Matt Olson, Ida Beza Gardner, and Robbie Flores dropping those likes. We do appreciate. So let's get right into some of the meat of it here, including, of course, the level of preparation that is being made and the road closures, specifically for, of course, El Paso's late Chief of Police, Greg Allen, the tribute and funeral itself there. Now, you can find these details all over with our news partners, kfoxtv.com. If you need to keep up with it, they'll also be bringing you live coverage throughout, both the next couple of days. But specifically today, starting, already in place, actually, the Paisano eastbound flyover to Loop 375 and the Border Highway eastbound is closed. So that started at 3:30, or supposed to anyway, and is now going to be going on till 10 p.m. tonight, so keep that in mind. And then on Friday, as there will be the funeral and the funeral procession going to the burial, the road closures are going to be going on from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. tomorrow, and including Zaragoza from Escobar to Interstate 10, Gateway East from Lee Trevino to Loop 375, direct connectors to I-10 eastbound to Loop 375 north and south, I-10 west to Loop 375 northbound direct connector, the I-10 East Zaragoza exit right lane closure, and I-10 east from Zaragoza to Loop 375, and also Loop 375 northbound on I-10. All traffic will have to exit direct connectors to I-10 east or west. So a lot of closures, but again, remember those time frames. The ones going on today, primarily just that Paisano eastbound flyover to Loop 375 closed until 10 p.m. tonight, and then all those other ones I just listed, 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. tomorrow. So keep those in mind again if you want to check out all the details and make sure you are going to be able to go where you need to, among other things. As we also have Ida Beza Gardner mentioning that I-10 around Vinton is backed up. I do believe that's due, I'm not mistaken, to a truck rollover. So we're just having a whole lot of fun on the roads here lately. This is among some of the reasons I say stay safe out there and don't be commenting on the show if you're also driving. Yeah. There was a semi truck overturned at Loop 375 and US 54. So it may not be exactly the area you're talking about, but I mean, those are, if I'm thinking about the right area. When I used to have access to the traffic cameras, we'd often see people freelancing, let's put it that way, going off the road and off to the soft shoulder to make it to the access road. Just simply put, don't do that unless there was pressing, immediate, near life or death need, because otherwise you're just kind of screwing everything up. But yeah, we're having a lot of fun on the road, including, just since I'm on the subject, random drilling in the middle of the street going on. I swear they keep moving the potholes everywhere along my route, but that's getting a little bit more conspiratorial than I usually like to get into. So, of course, the actual commemorations going to be going on for again, late police chief Greg Allen is going to be actually going on tonight, 6 to 9 p.m. at the Judson F. Williams Convention Center, lying in state there. Matt Olson saying, now you tell me with the shutdowns. Hey, we give you the traffic reports. If you're not listening to them, I don't know what to tell you. But again, what's going to be going on? The doors to Convention Center actually opening at 5 p.m. today, but that'll be going on from 6 to 9. There will be guest speakers, and the body of the chief will be lying in state for people to pay their respects. Also be able to give handwritten notes to the family. And they are accepting electronic condolences. The City of El Paso page has it, as well as donations can be made to the Friends of El Paso Animal Services. So again, all this coverage will be online. Oh, not about off-roading there. Again, it's a bad idea, Matt Olson clarifying. Again, if you're not if you're going to be off-roading, be nowhere near a road, I guess is what I'm getting at. Anyway. And so on the actual funeral on Friday, again, that'll be happening at the Abundant Living Faith Center, East El Paso location. Doors at 10 a.m., funeral at 11 a.m., and then there will be the procession to Evergreen East Cemetery. And anyone wishing to participate is strongly encouraged to carpool. And at the cemetery, there will be the police honors given, including a 3-volley salute, 21-gun salute, a last radio call, and presentation of the flag to the family. So, I don't know if any of y'all been out there at a final call. I've had the occasion to do so a couple of times. Can be very emotional. So as with any kind of funeral arrangements and proceedings, make sure to prepare accordingly, tissues, handkerchiefs, and such. And so, I mean, those are community information and still some of the questions about what comes next, but those will probably be coming a bit more after this whole process gets concluded. What has been said, of course, in the meantime, is that there is a competent set of leadership that has been, the chief left behind in terms of his top lieutenants and, deputy chiefs kind of things. So, yeah, and also talking more about alcohol, and both, I think, in condolence and remembrance, also in deference to the weather there. But, of course, this isn't the only thing that's going on in the region, and there's a lot more going on when it comes to enforcement in different ways, including what's going on both El Paso roadways and off them. And that leads to a larger conversation I finally want to delve into today about, what may have actually been the point of some of these recent national visits, particularly the presidential visit. So with that, we're going to go ahead and take that first break of this hour right now. You are, of course, tuned in to Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I'm your host, Andrew J. Polk. Yeah, more conversations about the warmer alcoholic beverages to consume there, but got to take that break. So more comments coming in online as we usually do, but then also comments and phone calls a little bit later in the program. But in any case, stay tuned after this break, talking about, again, immigration, border security, and some of those facts, factors, and future ones potentially. But getting into those details, stay tuned. We're Talk El Paso here on News Radio 690 KTSM. Don't go anywhere.
Traffic all day. News Radio 690.
A rollover has closed the I-10 east and westbound at Trans Mountain. The rollover crash is at the Vinton exit. Avoid the I-10 westbound if possible. It's a 1-hour delay, I-10 westbound from Sunland Park up to the Vinton exit. On the 54 Patriot southbound at the I-10, a single-car crash is slowing traffic. North Loop Drive eastbound at North Carolina, an injury accident. Kerry Edwards, El Paso traffic.
Winning $1,000 incites all kinds of emotions.
Are you kidding? No way.
What to do with it is up to you.
We're going to Key West. Right, that's it.
What are you, nuts? We're going to Atlantic City.
Listen for your chance to win $1,000 with inflation compensation.
Listen for your chance to win $1,000 every hour from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. Enter the nationwide keyword at ktsmradio.com for your chance to win. Brought to you by Sunland Park, Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram, where buying a car is fun.
This report is sponsored by Red Pilled America.
Are you tired of listening to stories that are saturated with wokeness? If you are, then you should try Red Pilled America. We tell good old-fashioned stories that align with middle America values. Listen to Red Pilled America anywhere you get podcasts. That's Red Pilled America.
Why do you buckle up when you get in your truck? Maybe you do it to get home safely to your loved ones, or because you take your job as a professional driver seriously, or because you want to follow the law to stay safe. Remember, it doesn't matter how long you've been driving, or even if it's a quick trip. Wear your seatbelt to stay safe on the road. Learn more at www.sharetheroadsafely.gov. That's www.sharetheroadsafely.gov. And remember to buckle up when you get behind the wheel. Paid for by FMCSA.
Hey, Texas, there are approximately 950,000 individuals in Texas living with a serious mental illness, which is an individual risk factor for severe COVID-19. If you or someone you know is living with a serious mental health condition, such as schizophrenia, major depressive disorder, or bipolar disorder, make sure they know where to go this holiday season to stay safe and healthy. Visit covidvaccine.texas.gov to find resources and location information for vaccine providers near you. Stay healthy, Texas.
For more than 20 years, the Window Depot has provided the best price and the biggest inventory on in-stock vinyl windows. And now, the Window Depot is more than a window store, offering homeowners and contractors a one-stop warehouse offering interior and exterior doors, granite quartz countertops, in-stock cabinetry, and skylights to finish your project. Their team of professionals will help with everything from free kitchen design to custom orders from leading manufacturers like Milgard and Geldwin. Order online or find a location near you at thewindowdepot.com.
I'm here at the Big Game headquarters, Total Wine and More, scoring huge savings on the perfect bourbon, local craft beer.
Forgetting something?
Oh yeah, Cabernet, seltzers, and so many low prices.
Valentine's Day is right after.
Whoa, new game plan.
You got this. Total Wine can help you score the perfect bubbly too.
Thank you, I would have been so...
You sure would have.
Your Big Game headquarters. Love what you find, always at the lowest price. Only at Total Wine and More. Drink responsibly, B21.
News Radio 690 KTSM El Paso.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. To be a part of the show, follow on Facebook at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I'm your host, Andrew J. Polk. Thank you for tuning in, however you may be doing so, be it on air, online, live streaming through the free and reliable iHeartRadio app, or joining us over on the various social media pages we're up on these days, facebook.com/Talk El Paso, the Talk El Paso channel over on YouTube, Twitter at Talk El Paso, or twitch.tv. Really, whatever works for you here. There's plenty of ways to get at us. Add your 2 cents over on the social media, more or less right now. Phone lines a little bit later, or if you just, locked in and want to hear what we're talking about, you're all welcome in whatever way works best for you, as long as kind of the purpose here, at least we gently encourage us to want to talk about the things that affect us here in the borderland, because no one else is going to get into the things like we are here, including interesting questions that come up here, including Tritosac, Tritosac. It's over on the YouTube page, asking, can anyone here tell me how safe Horizon City is? I think it depends on if you're talking about off-roading or not. No, that's kind of a joke based on the thing Matt Olson was yanking my chain about. But, I mean, the city of El Paso and the larger county area, of course, have been notably safe in a lot of ways. We'll say I'll have to defer to, it's not my usual stomping grounds. I'll put it that way. Both living on the west side and offices here being more or less central, make it out that way occasionally. I would say, again, careful with the off-roading just in general, kind of also seriously in that way, but no major issues I'm aware of. Doesn't come up as much anyway. So, but if anyone else has, if RJ putting at FBI and PD crime stats and talk to people near the home you want, then it's still a, I'm going to call it poop shoot, but that'd be about the same level of advice I give you there too. So, I mean, neighborhoods vary, they differ, and can even change over time. So due diligence, yeah, you're kind of doing it there, but a little bit more in depth on it is definitely your best friend. But when it comes to, of course, talking about crime and developments in it, there have, of course, been a lot of developments in our area going on with border security, immigration. I mean, it's almost changed on a weekly by weekly basis, including coming out today. Interesting update from local CBP officers conglomerating about 500 pounds of hard drugs seized just since the start of 2023, detailing it on kind of a day by day basis. But let's call it about 327 pounds of meth, 140 pounds of cocaine, and just over 42 pounds of fentanyl. And that's just from the ports of entry during this start of 2023, and at least let's call it a half dozen to a dozen different incidents, including at least one closer by, technically Presidio, but it was 15 pounds of fentanyl, just shy of 10 pounds of meth, along with an AR-15 being smuggled in by a female U.S. citizen. So yeah, that's fun, and certainly an important part of the actual enforcement that goes along with this. Also being released by CBP recently is about more than 60 fugitives that have been seized or found. I guess seized would not be the right phrase in this case, but those wanted for serious crimes like homicide and sexual offenses against children that have been uncovered when attempting to enter through El Paso ports of entries or in nearby areas, including at least one dude that tried to go nearby a port of entry, but that didn't work out for him. 59 individuals specifically sought on a variety of charges, include cruelty towards a child, molestation of a minor, abuse of a child, and assault. So as much as there is a lot of conversation about populations, who's coming across, and the enforcement, this is where it comes down to the idea for me that enforcement is a very important part of it, because sure, immigration laws and the debates we often have about them, probably should continue, but without an enforcement, that's why it's a combination issue pretty much always for me, because if you only have enforcement, you start getting into, and I'm not saying it's what we do now, but I mean, look at the situation we have at the moment when we have all of these. I think probably something coming up from our news partners here in the bottom of the hour update will be about another potential apprehension, or, okay, no, still not the right phrase, stop and arrest, probably a better way to put it, of those that were then later picked up apparently by CBP or related federal agencies, not too far from our station, again, near Schuster, actually, and I-10. So those kind of continue on. Whether or not that would have ended up being one of those smuggling, rabbiting situations where there is any level of enforcement being seen and they just floor it off, that's not a good thing. Or the stash house is kind of the different side of the same coin, frankly. Those I see as larger symptoms of the fact of there being enforcement pressure, certainly, but there not being necessarily a relief valve leading to, I mean, there's probably always going to be a level of that. I don't think that trying to eliminate it entirely is, I mean, it's a good goal. I don't know if it's a reasonable goal, because the amount of effort going into that to then try to eliminate it entirely could probably be used. I mean, law enforcement is a multifaceted operation, and whatever you're doing to completely eliminate something in one way, it's kind of like a beanbag situation. Put pressure in one place and you'll see it kind of squidge out in other areas. But also the enforcement on the actual ports of entry, certainly important, but that's a point that I'll delve more into here in just a minute. But then if you only have enforcement and then not, again, any of those relief valves, you're finding yourself, it could potentially get worse in my analysis and my thinking of it. But if you only have the immigration reform and just open the valve entirely without having any checks or security involved with it, that could also lead to other issues, as exemplified by those that literally tried to go through the ports of entry and were not able to. And one of the other reports a little bit earlier this week, a group of people taken to Border Patrol custody near the cemetery in Santa Teresa, was reported on by our news partners over at KFOX 14, around 5:30 a.m., being found near the Memorial Pine Cemetery off McNutt Road. And our crews were actually there from our news partners, seeing at least 3 people being taken into custody, with a police or law enforcement helicopter in general circling around the area. DPS, that's certainly an aspect of the enforcement that they are working on and dealing with, and actually some more interesting numbers that they are putting out as well. Because, of course, Operation Lone Star technically launched in March of 2021, And now in our area, of course, after the emergency disaster declarations were made by particularly the city of El Paso, putting out some numbers about exactly what they are doing still in the area now. Of course, the Connex's concertina wire deployment of a Texas military department or Texas National Guard troops has been, well, a significant part, and certainly one that has caught a lot of headlines and pictures. But the DPS troopers out there, one of the other things that they're saying, Sergeant Elliot Torres with the Texas Department of Public Safety and the state troopers said that they are routinely patrolling, quote unquote, on Loop 375 and I-10, looking for vehicles that are breaking any laws. But, well, as we've seen, some of the policies changing whenever it comes to the federal authorities, federal officials, and particularly for CBP, they're having to have considerations about how they do a pursuit, including what the potential impact both to with the law enforcement purposes, impact on the officer, as well as the general public and those being pursued. That's a kind of larger question. But what they're saying here and what Torres is quoted as saying is that, quote, majority of times if we see a violation and the person takes off and then car is riding a little bit heavy or something that the trooper sees that might be something more than meets the eye, that's when we encounter a lot of our pursuits leading up to us recovering a lot of migrants. No surprise to me that this level of enforcement is still going on in the area. I mean, again, with another one going on potentially today, some of the tallies from the reporting from our news partners there say at least 3 different pursuits in as many days, including some crashing into homes. I mean, it's not a great situation, the fact that this is going on our streets and in our areas. But the DPS saying that they are saying that they're having success with these enforcement efforts as they're seeing a drop in it and calling themselves proactive with it. Of course, we have seen, has been further reported, some changes what's going on, of course, on our streets and in the let's call it level of enforcement being required when it comes to releases on the streets. This is more on the federal side of things. Beyond those, I mentioned that were apprehended trying to cross in the ports of entry. The releases into the community have also been more than a little bit significant, if kind of exponentially decreasing. It's kind of looking like the inverse of one of those exponential curves that y'all may remember from your middle or high school math classes. As of the last complete week, the 3rd week of the year, there was 159 rolling 7-day average for, again, that total amount of about just over 1,100 in that day. And we're kind of on track for that so far for the complete days of this week, looking about 834 community releases, even if the CBP in custody rolling average may be ticking back upwards. So, I mean, there's still more questions and effectiveness and effects on it going on there because, well, Title 42 is absolutely a part of it, something that Governor Greg Abbott addressing in part, I will say, article titled from the Texas Tribune today. Governor Greg Abbott says he won't give up COVID-era power until Texas lawmakers ban vaccine mandates and strengthen the border. So it kind of ties into it, at the very least from my standpoint of Title 42 being a pandemic era policy. But there's also other interesting thing, including U.S. representatives, but representative from Texas, Chip Roy, saying he'll be used the debt ceiling threat to push through his border security plan. Further headline from the Texas Tribune there. That'll be an interesting kerfuffle going on nationally, so I don't expect that issue to go away. Patriot Chick asks, saying, released where to? I mean, that's the situation we've been seeing in our area as it is, being released into El Paso. Sometimes going to, say, the nonprofit organizations that kind of offer, the way I think of it, that last mile solution, at least locally, usually getting them transportation out of the area. So don't know if they're actually seeing the part of the parole process, at the very least, present in our area yet, but those are kind of waiting on further asylum cases. I think it is in that same vein to kind of answer that question here. But all of this, I have to say, is, of course, been something talked about the recent national political visits, and certainly the one from New York, the New York City mayor's visit, as well as the bipartisan group of U.S. senators coming through. Pretty well focused on this issue and maybe finding solutions. Okay, the mayor's visit was more about we can't handle this amount. I mean, I will say that the amounts that they're talking about, a sheer amount of people, may seem pale in comparison, but also they're not looking to move through their area. They're looking to stay, settle, await trial, and their asylum cases, etc. So it's not exactly an apples to apples comparison. But I will say, as much as was talked about the Biden visits, as he came through town, we, of course, had some of our coverage on air and the questions being asked around it. there's been a more interesting aspect that's been put to me that I've been looking into a bit. And tell you what, I'll talk about that in this next segment, because more than meets the eye and maybe not what you were expecting. I mean, sure, there were the photo op parts of it and some conversations with local elected officials and stakeholders, bishop, etc. But the actual end game, for lack of a better term, I got some thoughts on that we'll get into after this next segment, so stay tuned. More Talk El Paso after this break here on News Radio 690 KTSM. I am your host, Andrew J. Polk. More chiming in over on the social media. Get to that here in just a second, but in any case, don't go anywhere. Back after this break here on News Radio 690 KTSM. Stay tuned.
El Paso's News Radio 690 KTSM.
Hello, I'm Iraca Castillo with this KFOX 14 News Update. The memory and life of the longstanding police chief Greg Allen will be honored starting tonight. Chief Allen was El Paso's longest-serving chief as he guided the community for 15 years, including through the August 3rd Walmart mass shooting. Tonight's tribute is scheduled from 6 to 9 at the Convention Center downtown. The doors will open at 5 p.m. Allen will be lying in state to allow the public to pay their respects. Free parking will be available at the Convention Center and at the Union Plaza parking garage. The event will include an opportunity for members of the public to offer handwritten condolences to the chief's family. And at least 3 people were detained this morning near UTEP. A woman and 2 men were among those in the group stopped off of Schuster and the freeway. Our news crew saw 3 Department of Public Safety units and 2 unmarked law enforcement units. At about 4:30 this morning, Border Patrol agents and other law enforcement took those detained into custody. I'm Iraca Castillo with this KFOX 14 News Update.
News Radio 690. Traffic all day.
A rollover has closed the I-10 east and westbound at Trans Mountain. The rollover crash is at the Vinton exit. Avoid the I-10 westbound if possible. It's a 1-hour delay, I-10 westbound from Sunland Park up to the Vinton exit. On the 54 Patriot southbound at the I-10, a single-car crash is slowing traffic. North Loop Drive eastbound at North Carolina, an injury accident. Kerry Edwards, El Paso traffic.
From the KFOX 14 Severe Weather Center, I'm Chief Meteorologist Brad Montgomery. A cold one for tonight. Make sure you're going to be layered up, especially if you're going to be heading out tonight and tomorrow morning. Lows down into the teens and the 20s. For your Friday, a little warmer during the afternoon, highs in the lower 50s. As we look to the weekend, temperatures really jump up. We're looking at 62 for your Saturday with mid-60s on Sunday. From the KFOX 14 Severe Weather Center, I'm Chief Meteorologist Brad Montgomery.
This report is sponsored by Lowe's. Save on appliances and more at the Truckload event at Lowe's. Get an additional 10% off all in-store clearance appliances and take home what you buy same day. Shop the Truckload event today. Exclusions apply while supplies last. Selection varies by location. See Lowe's.com for details. Valid 1/5 to 2/8.
I love working on my cars, but I wish I had more space for my shop.
Give General Steel a call. In business for over 30 years and with over 5,000 five-star customer reviews, General Steel can help with projects ranging from RV storage and garages to churches, workshops, and even major construction for Fortune 500 companies. And all General Steel custom buildings are backed by our 50-year warranty.
But that's got to cost a fortune.
Actually, General Steel buildings are more affordable than other building options. And thanks to our highly efficient construction, you can go from dreaming it to enjoying it in no time.
I need to give the General a call. How do I get more information?
Call 866-74-STEEL or visit getgeneralsteel.com to find out what General Steel can do for your home or business. That's 866-74-STEEL. Our team will answer your questions and offer you a customized quote. Just call 866-747-8335 now or getgeneralsteel.com.
Pamela played soccer but had trouble breathing. Our team diagnosed and treated the problem. We are the only pediatric board-certified radiologists and experts in the region. There's only one El Paso Children's Hospital.
Wendy's knows everyone hates cold, soggy fries, so they changed theirs to serve them up hot and crispy, guaranteed, using only natural cut skin-on fries prepared to golden goodness and perfectly sprinkled with sea salt. Guaranteed to be hot and crispy. If yours aren't, bring them back and they'll replace them at participating U.S. Wendy's. This report is sponsored by Wendy's Hot and Crispy Fries.
Text and work. Text and pretend to work. Text and act surprised when someone calls you out for not working. Who, me? Text and whatever, just don't text and drive. Visit StopTextsStopWrecks.org. A message from NHTSA and the Ad Council.
El Paso's News Radio 690 KTSM.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. To be a part of the show, call 915-544-KTSM or follow on Facebook at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I am your host, Andrew J. Polk. Thank you for tuning in, however you may be doing so, be it on air, online, live, streaming through the free and reliable iHeartRadio app, or joining us over on the various social media pages. A lot of people chiming in over there, facebook.com/Talk El Paso, the Talk El Paso channel over on YouTube, Twitter at Talk El Paso, or twitch.tv, Andrew J. Polk. You can, of course, chime in there, as we also have Eric Von Holstein Rathlow. Hello to you as well. And Patriot Chick RJ over on the YouTube. Dropping those likes and reacts, we do appreciate. Monica Cervantes, Flaco Jimenez Medals, and Ida Beza Gardner, and Robbie Flores. John Browson, and also addressing a question a little bit earlier, is that maybe the city will hire a new chief of police who will retire before he ties with his boots on. Kind of a severe way to put it. Also saying it's not a job for an old man. Okay, I gotta say, let me know if I'm alone in this. I guess I knew that the chief wasn't exactly a spring chicken, but I was surprised that he was actually 71, because he did not look it. I mean, he was pretty well involved. I mean, some of the interviews done by our news partners there, including from his martial arts instructor. And let's just say some of the descriptions I had from older people I worked with, people like at the start of my career in TV, talking about having some interactions with him back like during his patrol days, and didn't seem to have missed much of a step, honestly. So I think that's part of the reason this came to a surprise for all. But obviously I don't know if there's a mandatory retirement age when it comes to the city, but again, those funeral arrangements, things going on, doors actually opening at the convention center within about half an hour. But the actual ceremonies and such going on through tonight. And again, the closures, if you want to know about that, find the details with our news partners there at kfoxtv.com. And they also mentioned there, of course, the serious issues going on online and, just in the Vinton area, about an hour delay there. So stay safe out on the roads. Anyway, point I was making before we hit that break about some of the, I guess you could say, actual points of the visits going on. I mean, again, we've had some interesting intimations about the point of other recent national political visits, but what I got to say, a couple of things came to mind around the actual visits themselves a little bit more recently, within about the last week here, over on the City of El Paso municipal government. City of El Paso, Texas-municipal government. That's the Facebook page where they post things like this, saying, and reading directly from it here, El Paso City Council authorized the mayor to sign a memorandum of understanding, MOU, with Ciudad Juarez and Freight Shuttle Express to explore the development and implementation of new technology for the movement of cargo through the Isleta Zaragoza International Port of Entry, a City of El Paso operated facility along the U.S.-Mexico border. The MOU will provide the basis to potentially modernize our bridge system with a fully automated shuttle system that could increase the amount of cargo crossing the El Paso Juarez border while alleviating traffic congestion at our ports of entry, along with the potential of becoming an economic driver for our region. It was an interesting one there, as there, of course, does come in the aftermath of some of these visits, including, well, let's just say a lot of focus on the Bridge of the Americas, BOTA, as I think more than a few people were not surprised. I mean, there was the photo ops and the major parts of the visit going on there, but the way it was put to me is not just a good photo opportunity, but actually a focus of what comes next. This has been in the books for a couple of years now, actually, just under, let's call it a year and 11 months. Went back and found out from the GSA.gov, the U.S. General Services Administration, article from February 25th, 2022, titled Bridge of the Americas Land Port of Entry to be Modernized Under Bipartisan Infrastructure Law, signed by President Biden. Okay, that's just the article title from you there. But let's also just say that the actual amounts coming with it, I mean, there's billions of dollars at play here, but specifically for the Bridge of the Americas and, well, pretty much all the facilities, but I think particularly the cargo one will be the focus, $600 million slated specifically for the BOTA. And if you've ever taken a moment to, I mean, driving by there, most people will be familiar-ish with the area. Of course, you know, Puente, the Free Bridge, Cordova, however you want to put it. But I often find the satellite map views to be very instructive in these ways. And so, I mean, I've seen it from many different angles, including from, along Paisano, Highway 62 there, or from the Chamizal National Memorial. But the actual scope of the cargo facility is interesting. There's, of course, the part where it splits off and goes along there besides the regular passenger vehicle lanes. And I mean, it's a significant enough facility, but you start running into, let's just call them logistical issues, including the fact that on the other side of kind of the feeders and the ramps into 54 from the very southern part of it, right near the bridge, you run into the actually Texas DPS Commercial Vehicle Enforcement Station, which has been its own focus lately. But then beyond that, you start running into, we got the Paisano Green community that, again, if you've been near the area or say near the zoo, which is just on the other side of Paisano from that, it's that public housing, I do believe it's public housing, or the housing facility in any case, that has the solar panels all over it and the couple of wind turbines that are right there. And then, of course, right across Boone Street from that is, the County Coliseum and all the facilities that are there, including some of the processing centers that have been set up. So it starts becoming a question of, okay, if we're talking about $600 million, and there's a lot of ways that money could be spent. I mean, potentially on more bridge lanes, though that gets a little bit more international and agreements going on, which is why I brought up part of the earlier mention there about memorandums of understanding. Now that's for the Zaragoza. And so outside of this, but the focus on cargo and the focus on just cross-border transit, particularly of goods and the economic drivers that come along with them, it's been put to me that was essentially the main focus of the Biden administration visit to our area. Because, I mean, sure, whether you subscribe to the ideas of there having been, the cleanups going on in downtown or the photo ops there, not the picture book that the mayor took from his own photography and gave to the president. I mean, sure, all impacting and certainly important to us here, but that's not necessarily a sole reason then you're going to have for a whole damn presidential visit. So $600 million projects, signature projects, of course, literally signed by the president in these cases, and revamping one of the busiest ports of entry. I mean, there are literal billions of dollars that pass through the El Paso and the various bridges we have here. I could see that as being a more strategic goal as the focus of this whole damn visit, though they said consequential things that come out of that for our area, including what happens to the Coliseum, that housing, hell, potentially even the zoo, because if you're going to want to significantly expand, you got to be looking at more room. So there's only a couple of options. Right north of Paisano, there's a neighborhood-ish kind of crammed in there. I haven't driven on those streets myself, I will say, between kind of the split in 54 where it turns into the lanes then going into the port of entry lanes, or the ones coming out from it. You got the Chamizal to the west of it, which it is federal land, but there's also a lot of other laws, regulations, etc. that go onto that. But then you get into the east of it, just under 54, where there's already ways for traffic to be diverted, particularly for cargo. And you get into, again, that DPS facility, the Paisano Green community, and the Coliseum, which very notably has a lot of, it's also having, the Rhinos Event Center, where they have the ice roller derby, but there's a lot of space. And as much as there has been focus on the history of it lately, including a local historian, David Romo, doing some tours, I think that's coming up this weekend, about the actual Coliseum. But it's leaving a lot of questions, because $600 million is, again, nothing to sneeze at, and the impact it could have on the surrounding neighborhoods. There's some smaller neighborhoods like on either side of Boone Street, but there's also a lot of industrial there, including the wastewater processing plant, why it smells so nice down there, among other things. So those are really, I think, probably, again, this is mild crystal ball time. It's as cloudy as ever, but also combining with the tea leaves and the auguries makes a little bit more of a clearer picture. I got to say that this being maybe the long-term focus impact reason for this visit. Sure, there's plenty of places to take a photo op, and there was the new policy that came out that I kind of called the shot for, of why it actually come to I still call El Paso the capital of the border. I'm going to stick with that until further notice. So jumping that into that, particularly that one bridge, but potentially others being modified at the same time here, I see as probably, I wouldn't take bets on this as anything political, one of the major things that might be the aftermath of this whole presidential visit, and why that could be just We're talking about other construction and things going on the roads, really messing up both that area, the transit. I mean, look at other examples. You can see what's been going on with, say, TxDOT and the whole Spaghetti Bowl area. That one damn ramp going from I-10 westbound, was it 22B, and how you can often see the traffic arcing up there any given afternoon, or coming from the other way eastbound. That one is, which one's that exit? 22B as well, oddly enough. I try to avoid that one like the plague, because if I'm ever going into Mexico, which does not happen that often these days, if ever. Yeah, it's probably going to be a mess there. I mean, they've been doing the work on it, but if this project's and end up being something like the signature things that are getting really therefore pushed by the administration, that could see this be maybe not exactly expedited, but a lot of just mess up in our area. So I could see that as being one of the more impacting potential things coming out of this whole visit. One more thing I want to mention here as a preview for you, what we got coming up for you this weekend on the El Paso Public Forum, which is the program that we have that airs on all of our local iHeartRadio stations at 7 a.m., focused on different of the local programs going on here. So before we hit that next break, we have a slight preview of what's going to be coming up with that, talking with the Osher Lifelong Learning Institute. Enjoy. Joining me now, we have Lynn Provenzano, Executive Director for the Osher Lifelong Learning Institute. Thank you very much for joining us here today.
Hi. Thank you, Andrew, for having me.
Absolutely happy to have you on to talk about this. I mean, people may have heard a little bit of this either going by on our airwaves or in general, but the organization, more probably commonly known as OLLI, O-L-L-I, for the Osher Lifelong Learning Institute, is something that has been around for quite some time now, right?
Yes, it's been around for a long time, actually. Continuing education for adults over the age of 50 has been around for almost 30 years now at UTEP. But Osher has been around for 15 years. We transitioned from the Center for Lifelong Learning to the Osher Lifelong Learning Institute. And now we are known as OLLI, fondly known as OLLI.
So when people hear about continuing education, particularly, at least for people I know and people around my generation, the concept is like for professional use, essentially. The idea of, okay, you have to have so many continuing education credits for those who have professional licensure and that kind of thing. And that's not necessarily out of place, but y'all's focus is basically a bit different, more about phase of life, essentially, right?
It is. We believe that learning never gets old and that curiosity never gets old. Isn't there something you always wanted to know about? Isn't there a piece of history that's interesting to you? Or did you ever think, gee, wouldn't it be nice if I could learn how to paint in oils or learn a new language? So we actually feed that curiosity by offering a program of courses and lectures and tours that basically give you a chance to learn more.
So within OLLI, based at UTEP, you all do this more or less on a kind of semester, kind of seasonal basis here, the way you've got it in your catalog that you have out of for this year, starting, of course, with spring 2023. So for those that are unfamiliar with, I guess, even the concept of, adults continuing education, how do you all go about it?
Well, we follow fall, spring, and summer terms at UTEP. So fall is 2 sessions, spring is 2 sessions, and summer is 1 6-week session.
Okay.
Our sessions are 5 to 6 weeks long, depending on, how the calendar falls. We have holidays that fit in.
Sure.
People like to travel during the holidays. So we tailor our meeting times, our class times to those schedules and with the UTEP course schedules.
So we're talking a lot about this in terms of, it will sound like collegiate terms here, and there's a lot of cross-application and like the timing and such here, but let's just say exams aren't as much of a feature.
No homework, not unless you want to write your memoirs, but there's no homework, no tests. It's purely getting together to have a social connection, whether it's online or in person, and feed your curiosity.
So again, if people want to find out information about this, we've mentioned the name a couple of times here about OLLI and the Osher Lifelong Learning Institute. Where can they go to find this information, be able to sign up, and what are some of the requirements?
Okay, so we have an annual membership of $40, and that is non-prorated, and it goes from September 1st until August 31st. And then there is a semester fee, so it is $77 to take as many classes as you would like to take within that time frame. So we are currently accepting registrations now for our spring term, And the spring term goes from February 6th all the way through May 6th.
Okay.
Okay. We have two different sections,
Right.
sessions, February 6th through March 11th, and then March 20th through May 6th. And so within that time period, you can take as many classes as you like for $77.
And so some of the subjects that are involved in here, I mean, you both have just going through the catalogs here, clubs and special interest groups. You have the different sessions and the parts that go into it here, including just again some of the categories: art appreciation, culture, hands-on arts, humanities, languages, science, special events, theater and film. And that's just in the first session here, and only skipping over some of them. So there's a lot of different features.
Absolutely. We try to cover as many topics as we can in some way, because history may be important to you, but not to another person. We have a lot of OLLI members who come on and learn Italian before they go on their, trips to Italy.
Okay.
Or we have a French classes and a French club, and we have many people who just, follow that language. Maybe they're planning on traveling again overseas to France, or maybe they just want to speak French to another person. So we encourage that they sign up for these classes.
Absolutely. If you're just joining us, guest right now is Lynn Provenzano, the OLLI Executive Director. Again, if you want to find out anything about the program, about the details of it, and particularly how to sign up, the place to go is utep.edu/OLLI. So that's utep.edu/OLLI. Again, OLLI for the Osher Lifelong Learning Institute, but again, officially known as OLLI in this case. So that's a preview of the interview we'll come up for you this weekend on the El Paso Public Forum that airs on all of our local iHeartRadio stations, including 690 AM right here, 7 a.m. on Sundays. But with that, we'll go ahead and open up those phone lines as we usually do for this point in the program to hear from y'all. Again, comments still coming in online and taking those phone calls here. That number, of course, 915-544-5876, 915-544-KTSM. Back after this break with more Talk El Paso here on News Radio 690 KTSM. Stay tuned.
Traffic all day. News Radio 690.
A rollover crash has closed the I-10. An earlier rollover at the Vinton exit off the I-10 has closed the I-10 east and westbound at Trans Mountain. Right now, 62-minute delays, I-10 westbound starting at Sunland Park. I-10 eastbound at Piedras, road debris is blocking the left lane. An accident's clearing at the 54 Patriot southbound at the I-10. And an injury accident eastbound Red after Wrestler Drive. Carrie Edwards, El Paso traffic.
This report is sponsored by SRGExpress.com. Use the experts on hiring for accounting roles. Visit SRGExpress.com to connect with the accounting workforce pros. The specialized recruiting group takes an individual approach, placing people in contract and full-time roles. SRGExpress.com.
Hey, El Paso, Ivan Ochoa, General Manager from Sunland Park Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram Fiat. Thank you, El Paso and surrounding areas, for helping us be El Paso's #1 volume dealer in new Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, and Ram sales in 2022. Our goal is to ensure that everyone gets the best deals and exceptional trade-in offers, so we can be #1 again in 2023.
Trade in and trade up for less during the Start Something New sales event at Sunland Park Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, Ram, Fiat. For a limited time, get super low 2.9% APR for 72 months on new 2022 Ram trucks. Super low 1.9% APR on 2023 Jeep Grand Cherokees, and get $3,000 off MSRP. Plus, we have a huge selection of new Dodge Chargers and certified pre-owned vehicles with the best prices in town. Worried about your trade or credit? Don't sweat it. Our lenders will push to approve your credit, even if your credit is less than perfect. Trade in and trade up for less at Sunland Park Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, Ram, Fiat. Where buying a car is fun at I-10 and Sunland Park Drive, or online at sunlandparkdodge.com. Estamos en tu esquina, El Paso. El Paso strong. Includes factory rebate and dealer discount plus TTNL. 2.9% APR is $15.15 per thousand finance. All select vehicles with approved credit. Offers not combined.
Is your tub worn out, but you're not sure who to trust to replace it? With over 2 million successful bath remodels, people trust Bathfitter because we know how to do it right. We've been custom designing and manufacturing baths for over 35 years. Our unique tub-over-tub installation takes as little as a day with no demo to fit your busy schedule. And we offer a lifetime warranty on every tub. That's how confident we are in our quality and durability. Bathfitter, it just fits. Visit bathfitter.com to book your free consultation.
Hey Texas, did you know that individuals living with serious mental illness are more susceptible to severe COVID-19? Visit covidvaccine.texas.gov for vaccination resources to help reduce the risk and keep yourself and your fellow Texans informed and protected this holiday season. Stay healthy, Texas.
Attend the El Paso Gun Show this weekend, January 28th and 29th at the Forum Ballroom, 3800 Maddox, El Paso, Texas. See dealers selling the finest in modern guns, custom knives, ammo, scopes, rifles, shotguns, and much more. Buy, sell, and trade at the El Paso Gun Show this weekend, January 28th and 29th at the Forum Ballroom, 3800 Maddox, El Paso, Texas. Get $2 off admission. For more information, go to azgunradio.com.
As a Lowe's MVP Rewards member, earn bonus points when you shop select products and brands. Redeem for e-gift cards and more. Bonus points calculated before taxes and fees after applicable discounts, if any. Subject to program terms while supplies last. Points expire at end of calendar year. Visit Lowe's.com/MVPs bonus points.
News Radio 690 KTSM.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. To be a part of the show, call 915-544-KTSM or follow on Facebook at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I am your host, Andrew J. Polk. Thank you for tuning in, however you may be doing so, be it on air, online, live streaming through the free and reliable iHeartRadio app, or over on our various social media pages. Of course, comments coming in there. A lot of people tuning in, chiming in, adding their 2 cents there, and also have that phone line open. Okay, full up at the moment, but if you want to call in, that number to do so is 915-544-5876. 544-KTSM is the number to use. Well, in between other calls. Again, when one call ends, another line opens, which sounds a little bit more proverbial than I intended it to. But in any case, yeah, we'll be taking those throughout second hour of the program here, but short timing it here, so I don't want to shortchange anyone. So we're going to go ahead and hit that next break. But a few of the things, again, we're talking about today, including, of course, the arrangements, and particularly for those out on the roads right now, closures coming along with both the lying in state, the funeral procession, the funeral, and then the interment itself for El Paso's late chief of police. Then also looking at some of those details of what it might actually be coming about, enforcement, the programs on border security and immigration, but also what the longer term impact of some of those recent, particularly the presidential visit, may be. So then talking more about those, but we got to take that break, hit the top of the hour, and make sure I don't get in trouble. So back after this break and the top and the news break that comes along with it here on News Radio 690 KTSM. Again, I'm your host, Andrew J. Polk. That number one more time, just keep it handy, 915-544-5876, 544-KTSM. Back after this break with more. Stay tuned.
Traffic all day. News Radio 690.
A rollover crash has closed the I-10. An earlier rollover at the Vinton exit off the I-10 has closed the I-10 east and westbound at Trans Mountain. Right now, 62-minute delays, I-10 westbound starting at Sunland Park. I-10 eastbound at Piedras, road debris is blocking the left lane. An accident's clearing at the 54 Patriot southbound at the I-10. And an injury accident eastbound red after Wrestler Drive. Carrie Edwards, El Paso traffic.
With PatriotSoftware.com, accounting and payroll, keep your time and money.
Mike Chappell here, serial entrepreneur. Doing payroll is no longer a headache for our customer, Jeff.
I've used various payroll providers in the past, and none can hold a candle to Patriot Software. Their software is ridiculously easy to use. The support staff is knowledgeable and courteous. I am very excited that Patriot Software files my tax forms for me, not just providing the forms like other payroll companies do. As a business owner, managing payroll has been a long-time headache that I no longer struggle with thanks to Patriot Software. I definitely rate your company 5 out of 5 stars.
Go to PatriotSoftware.com to get your payroll pricing for up to 100 employees. Use promo code RADIO and get 2 months of payroll processing free. That's PatriotSoftware.com.
PatriotSoftware.com, accounting and payroll, keep your time and money.
KTSM AM El Paso is News Radio 690, an iHeart radio station.
Support is a powerful thing. It feels good to have a friend in your corner, right? 1 Million Strong is an impact initiative committed to transforming the way people think about addiction and experience recovery. If you live with addiction or have a loved one who does, 1 million strong is for you. You have friends in your corner. Find support by signing up at 1millionstrong.com.
News on the hour and the hat. Traffic and weather all day. News Radio 690 is KTSM AM El Paso, an iHeart radio station.
NBC News Radio, I'm Brian Shook. The attorneys for some of the ex-Memphis police officers involved in the violent arrest of Tyree Nichols say the officers are in shock. Blake Bayland, attorney for ex-Memphis officer Desmond Mills Jr., talked about his client.
He is known not only here locally, but back where he's from in Connecticut as just a gentle, respectful father, a family man.
Nichols, a black man, died in the hospital days after a January 7th traffic stop involving the police officers, who are also black. The 5 officers are now facing murder charges. The suspect in the Northern California mass shootings is admitting to what happened in a jailhouse interview. The 66-year-old man is accused of killing 7 workers earlier this week at 2 farm sites in Half Moon Bay, south of San Francisco. In an exclusive interview with NBC Bay Area, the suspect admitted he committed the fatal shootings following years of bullying and long hours working on the farms. Boeing is pleading not guilty to criminal charges linked to crashes involving their 737 MAX jets. A representative for the aerospace giant was in a Texas court Thursday, facing off with those who lost family members. They're upset over being ignored when Boeing struck a deal with the Justice Department. Part of the settlement gave Boeing legal immunity. House Speaker Kevin McCarthy is calling President Biden to the negotiating table over raising the debt ceiling. Lisa Taylor has more.
In a tweet just before the president gave remarks on the economy, McCarthy said Biden should set a date to discuss a responsible debt ceiling increase. He said lawmakers must finally address Washington's irresponsible spending. Conservatives are demanding spending cuts as a price for lifting the debt ceiling and averting a default. I'm Lisa Taylor.
At the closing bell, the Dow Jones rose 204 points to 33,948. You're listening to the latest from NBC News Radio. Top Democrats are calling on the Federal Trade Commission to investigate a company they say is marketing a small rifle to children. Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer accused We One Tactical of breaking the law in its advertising of its JR-15 rifle, a play on the AR-15 rifle the firearm is modeled after. A woman is under arrest in New Jersey after posing as a high school student and attending classes for 4 days.
Some students at New Brunswick High School knew something was up after hearing the news.
She did not look like a student. I was like, there's something wrong about it. She had so many red flags that teachers didn't see it. Some students were like very suspicious and cautious of her.
29-year-old Hai Zhang Shin was arrested after district officials discovered she filed false documents. Board of Ed officials are calling the incident bothersome. Lisa G., New Jersey.
Lawn Starter ranked 2023's dirtiest cities in America. And depending on where you live, you may want to buy some air fresheners, mouse traps, or a can of roach spray. Aaron Real reports.
Comparing over 150 of the biggest U.S. cities across 4 categories, including pollution, living conditions, infrastructure, and consumer satisfaction, Houston took the top spot for the dirtiest city in America. In fact, a recent study found that the city's petrochemical facilities severely violate EPA safety guidelines. Newark, New Jersey, San Bernardino, California, Detroit, and Jersey City, New Jersey round out the top 5 dirtiest cities, while Virginia Beach, Sunnyvale, California, Norfolk, Virginia, Des Moines, Iowa, and Fremont, California rank as the cleanest cities in the U.S.
Broadway's Phantom of the Opera celebrates its 35th anniversary tonight. It's the longest-running musical in Broadway history, wowing audience for 3.5 decades with its unforgettable music, a scary chandelier, and a plot based on real-life happenings at a Paris opera house. Brian Shook, NBC News Radio.
Now your chance to win $1,000. Just enter this nationwide keyword on our website. Bank. That's bank. Enter it now.
This report is sponsored by Wendy's Hot and Crispy Fries. Wendy's knows everyone hates cold, soggy fries, so they changed theirs to serve them up hot and crispy, guaranteed, using only natural cut skin-on fries prepared to golden goodness and perfectly sprinkled with sea salt. Guaranteed to be hot and crispy. If yours aren't, bring them back and they'll replace them at participating U.S. Wendy's.
Why do you buckle up when you get in your truck? Maybe you do it to get home safely to your loved ones, or because you take your job as a professional driver seriously, or because you want to follow the law to stay safe. Remember, it doesn't matter how long you've been driving or or even if it's a quick trip, wear your seatbelt to stay safe on the road. Learn more at www.sharetheroadsafely.gov. That's www.sharetheroadsafely.gov. And remember to buckle up when you get behind the wheel. Paid for by FMCSA.
And now for today's Roblox winter weather alert. iHeartland on Roblox has been walloped by a winter snowstorm. It is a winter wonderland. You can now ice skate at State Farm Park. In State Farm Neighborhood, you can compete in snowball fights, grab a hot cocoa and cookies, and more. There's also special events from your favorite artists and podcasters all month, along with scavenger hunts, exclusive content, and unique items. So enjoy the festive winter weather at iHeartland on Roblox. Head to iHeartRadio.com/iHeartland today.
There are things that go together that make mornings better. Coffee and cream, bacon and eggs, pancakes and syrup.
Let's take a look at traffic and weather together.
Traffic and weather. Yeah. Stay informed with El Paso's News Radio. Updates all day long.
General things like that help me get through my day.
Before you head out, get together with our traffic and weather. Traffic and weather all day. Stay informed with El Paso's News Radio 690 KTSM. News Radio 690 KTSM El Paso.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. To be a part of the show, call 915-544-KTSM or follow on Facebook at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I am your host, Andrew J. Polk. Thank you for tuning in, however you may be doing so, be it on air, online, live, streaming through the free and reliable iHeartRadio app, or joining us over on the various social media pages that we are up on these days, facebook.com/Talk El Paso, the Talk El Paso channel over on YouTube, Twitter at Talk El Paso, or twitch.tv, Andrew J. Polk. A lot of people chiming in over there, including those dropping those likes and reacts. James Holmes, Monica Cervantes, Flaco Jimenez, Matt Olson, Ida Beza Gardner, Robbie Flores, and Stephen Christopher. And, of course, we have those phone lines open as well, if full up at the moment. But, again, as the reminder, just look for it. Anytime we end one of the calls, that'll be a good chance for you. So, and Bernadette Bandicoot also chiming in, saying, listening on YouTube in the TV while I cook. If you ever tell me someone says, I don't know, I don't live in the future, the fact that you can see like online content anywhere, it's part of the reason we structure things the way we do, a little bit inside baseball, because we're never sure if, particularly on the online portion, someone's watching us on their phone, their laptop, or their big screen, because that's how it works these days. So that's why we put it out in all those ways, to make it whatever works for you and the works the best. If you can make it work, or you want to find out other options, that's why we mention them. But we're here to talk about the things affecting us here in the borderland, and discussing like no one else is going to there. Anyway, let's go ahead and get to those phone lines now. Again, keep that number in handy, 915-544-5876, 544-KTSM. We do have Raul in the Northeast on the line with us here right now. Raul, thanks for joining us.
Hey, Andrew. A couple of occasions in the past, you had a UTEP professor as a guest, and he was speaking about the Supreme Court. What is his name?
I believe you're talking about the professor, Todd Curry, professor of political science over at UTEP. I think that's the one you're referring to.
Okay, yeah, I was going to ask you what it is that he taught. I guess having him as a guest, you must have thought that the Supreme Court's rulings affect El Paso. So my recollection is that he said the Supreme Court had become radical with the appointment of 3 Trump justices, with their line to the Senate Judiciary Committee when under oath spoke about their respect for precedent and established law, but then overturned Roe versus Wade, which had been the law of the land for half a century. Now, this decision turned the expected red wave into a trickle, and the Dems increased the majority in the Senate and thus neutered the Republicans and Speaker of the House, Kevin McCarthy. Now, the Supreme Court is very unrepresentative, and it was made possible by the anachronistic remnant of slavery, the unrepresentative and undemocratic Electoral College. And so as a result, Trump, who lost the popular vote, even with Putin's help, he was able to get 3 radical right-wing justices onto the Supreme Court, those being Neil Gorsuch and Brett Kavanaugh and Amy Coney Barrett. And then on top of that, to make things worse, we had that radical Uncle Thomas and his insurrectionist wife, Jeannie Thomas, Uncle Thomas, who failed to recuse himself from cases involving his wife. So it's no wonder that the trust and job approval of the Republican Supreme Court has plummeted to historic lows.
Okay, so the reason we talked about the Supreme Court previously is because there were literally and immediately actually Supreme Court decisions involving here, including the Tigwa tribe and the decisions being made there. I mean, literally, it was their cases finally percolating there. So that's part of the reason. We have talked a little bit about some of their cases proceeding here, but since we're going back to this whole well-worn topic, let me just put it this way. If you dislike the system that we inhabit, if you want to see it change, you want to do something about it, there are literally mechanisms to do that. I mean, we've had some people mention, such as the Convention of States and changing around that way, trying to draw a direct link between, say, the Electoral College and the Supreme Court that's a little bit more of a stretch. If you say, well, they're both in the Constitution, sure, that's something, I suppose, being within the same document, but saying that they're one is the cause of the other is not quite a linkage that I'm following you on there. Because, I mean, sure, there has been, you want to be at least more relevant anyway, there has been previous fights. I keep trying to find a good quality version of the actual editorial cartoon. I want to say it was during FDR's time, when he wanted up to like 7 more Supreme Court justices and the whole row that started. I mean, the whole thing about the Supreme Court is that it is based on precedent. That's the way it operates. That's the way it moves through. So the fact that there is, stare decisis, the decision stands, the things that have previously been ruled on impact how they make future decisions. Now, of course, precedent can be overruled, as you're mentioning with Roe v. Wade, or as previous examples such as, let's just go like Brown versus Board of Education, Plessy versus Ferguson, the famous ones that you'll learn about that both set up precedent and then can be adjusted later on depending on the makeup of the court. I mean, it is largely, there's a reason there aren't cameras really in those courtrooms yet, is because they try to stay apart from the daily politics, but the reason they're there, and the way it is being decided now, we've had some conversations kind of related to those about Roberts, his position on the board, not the board, but on the court as the Chief Justice, and the way he is maneuvering decisions. But what I will say about the whole concept of it is this, particularly on the Roe v. Wade that you're talking about there, interesting point to be made, I guess, about how that may or may not have affected then the midterm elections. I think it is a point of data that probably went into it. I mean, anytime you have something that activates people, particularly on the opposite side of things, can tend to, as much as there was the whole conversations going on about, oh no, this is sending it back to the states, and then I forget which senator did it, but then saying, oh, by the way, we're going to make that the law of the land now that it's banned here. I don't think that played too well into the other plans here. I think it was one of the senators from the Carolinas, remembering correctly. In any case, to say that you want to see it change and you consider it illegitimate, there's something to be said about inhabiting the system that we are currently in. Like, sure, you can, a way to put it here, you can choose which game you're going to play, but when you're going to play the game, you got to play by the rules as it is. You can't change them kind of midstream because they're not suiting you at the moment. And frankly, I got to say, at least part of the whole Roe v. Wade thing is that, well, they're letting the precedent stand. They didn't put it into law or try to put it into a constitutional amendment, advocates for it, that is, or other elected or those in the community kind of thing. And they were hoping that would stay that way, which is now why we're seeing towards the end of the last session of Congress and now into this one, the idea of passing some of these other laws, the other points that I will say that some of Thomas's decision, the way he put forth it on his concurring but not the majority decision of saying that, oh, we're going to tackle these other two, that may also have been a bit far afield. And frankly, while we're seeing some of those legal changes. So that is so much to say that if you don't like the Supreme Court, you're certainly entitled to your opinion on there here, but saying it's illegitimate because now it's not going the way that you want it to is kind of not how this works. Because there's been plenty of, sure, other decisions that you've liked, but to say that, well, those were the people I liked that are on there were good, but these people aren't anymore, therefore it's all illegitimate. I mean, there is a certain amount of consideration that needs to be done with that. Part of the conversation we had with UTEP professor of political science Todd Curry was along the lines of what the differences in this court may be, because them having a firm majority now, the conservative justices, that is, may lead to them taking other other chances, other cases, just doing a different philosophy of it. Whereas Robert's major focus, at least in Dr. Curry's analysis, and that I agree with, really focusing on the perception and legitimacy of the court coming out of particularly like, Bush v. Gore and things involving that. So again, if you don't like the system, didn't work to change the system. But if you don't like the system only when it doesn't work for you and otherwise it's fine, that's a different conversation. I'll say that here. So appreciate the point in the call for what it's worth as we're doing these. Okay, if you want to try to do these segues of, well, you vaguely talked about this, so let me launch into something kind of unrelated. That's kind of up to my discretion there. Anyway, let's get at least one more call on the line here before we hit that next break. We do have Barbara on the west side here with us right now. Barbara, thanks for joining us. Barbara, are you there? There you are.
Yes, I'm here. Today I was listening to the news and Biden's picture pops up, and he, and he says that he's going to veto every bill, every one of them that the Republicans sent to him. And he can't understand why the Republicans want to stop that. He believes we've come so far that he just doesn't get it. That's what he said. This coming from the unity president. I started thinking, I jotted down a few things, and I'll see if I can get through these quickly. Number one, that's El Pasoans live on the most dangerous border crossing in the world to cross into the United States. We live on a border where billion-dollar cartel enterprises dictate who comes into our country. We live in a border where drugs cross into our country that can kill every single American. We live under an administration that has evolved to a two-tier justice system. In 2 short years, millions of Americans can't afford the price of food, gas, utilities, or mortgage rates. We live under an administration where the laws favor criminals rather than the citizens. We live in a country where illegals are rewarded for breaking our laws, where parents are considered domestic terrorists, where men can claim that there are women and vice versa, where children can be mutilated at a tender age, and doctors have been mandated under an administration to perform these mutilation procedures regardless of whether they have a religious exemption or they have, in their medical opinion, the surgeries are detrimental to the child or not necessary. That's gone to the court. We also have an administration who is in favor of and has no problem sending billions of dollars to foreign nations like Ukraine so that they can defend their sovereignty. But when we say we want to secure the border, when we want our sovereignty protected, we're called racists. And under this administration, when Panama told them that they have no justification to defend criminals, and that was in July, this administration has not paid attention, which has resulted in 2019, we had 0 terrorists on the line, on the terrorist list that were apprehended on the border.
Mm-hmm.
So far this year, we have 38. In 2022, there were 19 on the terror list that were apprehended. That means we're already on the mark to about 115 this year. And I just know that's probably going to go up. And then we have an administration whose president absconded with top secret and confidential documents during his years as a senator, and then vice president who has no authority to do that. And now he claims he doesn't know how that happened. And let's not forget, we have an administration under whose watchful eye, 45,000, and I'm going to keep saying this, unaccompanied lost minor children are being trafficked in sex and child labor. This administration has absolutely no emotional empathy, in my opinion. I ask your listening audience, Andrew, do you get it? I get it. I don't think anybody will call and say they don't get it. So this president needs to wake up. But for him to claim to be our unity president, he's far from the word unity. Every time he speaks, it's the MAGA Republicans. We're the bad guys. We've caused all this. I mean, inflation was at 1.4 when he took office. It went up to 9%, I think, in June or July. I mean, this man is just. And I noticed when he's talking, please, everybody pay attention. He will get aggressive with something he really despises. Every time he mentions Republicans, notice his attitude, notice his composure. if he doesn't like what's happening, and he will even get angry if you question him or his policies, he gets angry. I think somebody asked him about the documents that he took, and he said, what really gets to me, or, what really angers me, we have more important things to talk about. Excuse me, you may be compromised. Those documents, and now they're reporting that a memo that Hunter prepared a few years ago looks like it was prepared by an intelligence committee. So we need to have answers. Are you compromised or not? And so he needs to quit getting angry at the American people because we have questions that we want to know from our president.
I will say on the whole concept of particularly the comparison that it keeps coming up with Ukraine here. I mean, I get the way you're putting it there on control for sovereignty, but I just got to say it doesn't speak to me of exactly an apples to apples comparison. If we start having tanks show up at the southern border, then I will have that's a different conversation overall. But on the whole idea of the laws, the way they're coming forth here, I know it's been reported on like our top of the hour news breaks there about the potential for it. I will say that some of them that we'll probably get more into tomorrow, at least I expect to come up tomorrow, as much as we don't usually present topics, but go into the calls there, the ways of the potentially removing of the IRS. I'll say I'm reading into that, and I don't have anything exact to share just yet because I've got there's a lot to dig into there, particularly in the idea of the 30% flat sales tax. But I guess I'm not surprised that that's coming forth, though I think we might see some push come to shove moments on the whole sphere of negotiations and with the Speaker of the House, Kevin McCarthy, when it comes to these debt ceiling negotiations.
Well, Andrew, the reason I say Ukraine, and I'm not saying that the actions that we're taking, I'm just talking about sovereignty.
Right, yeah.
If one country is entitled to their sovereignty, well, so are we, and that's all we're saying about our southern border. And then, now that you mentioned some of the stuff today, Schumer was saying that on the debt ceiling, they don't want to compromise. He said, well, are the Republicans going to defund or reduce Social Security, Medicare? Are the Republicans going to defund the police? Are the Republicans going to take money away from the children? That's everything. Those three last items is what Biden did. They support defunding the police. The Democrats have said it for years. The food program. President Biden threatened to take away funds from the schools that did not support little boys and girls bathrooms and girls and boys bathrooms. Everything Schumer mentioned is what the president has done. So that's an administration that we're living under. And we get it. We really do get it, regardless of what he says. So,
well, like I said,
anyway.
Yeah, there's a lot to get into there, and I'm sure we'll get into it more in the coming days here. But the local impacts on the border enforcement parts of it, what we talked about early in the program, certainly a significant part of the policies coming out there. And I really think that probably not again. Crystal ball cloudy as ever, so I'm not calling that. This is not my pointing into the stands Babe Ruth moment, but I think that the focus in our area, besides some of the policies, the whole parole, CBP1 app, besides that the Bridge of the Americas might be the biggest focus coming from the administration in our area, possibly in the coming year, maybe even this year.
But didn't I hear you say that it was all about commercial? He was here for
Mm-hmm.
It was going to be commercial trade and transport back and forth?
Among other things here, the $600 billion, this is directly from the GSA.gov. The project, which will involve more than $600 million investment, will fully modernize the facility, helping improve the flow of the traffic flow and decrease wait times. The project will also allow U.S. CBP to more effectively deploy technology to identify high-risk activity in shipments, combat drug trafficking, and increase operational security. So, again, there's that leaves a lot of nebulous. I expect a lot will be happening with the cargo. There was also the part I talked about, the memorandum of understanding that has now been signed between the city of El Paso and Ciudad Juarez about, particularly for the Zaragoza Bridge. And that one is primarily cargo focused, but cargo it can't not be a part of the Bridge of the Americas. So I think there also will be passenger parts of it, it sounds like, as well.
I agree totally with that. But that has nothing to do with all the illegal immigration, all these people coming in illegally, crossing our border, overwhelming our city, and the fact that we're transporting people out or people are coming in. And it's like I said, he's going to come over here to see how much money can I throw at El Paso to keep them accepting these immigrants. And he proved my fact. Just what you said today, I said it before he got here. He's coming to see how much money he can throw to pacify the city of El Paso, to keep the ports, to keep accepting these illegal immigrants. There's no end to what they're going to do. And El Paso needs to open their eyes. Anyway, I have so much to say on politics.
I mean, there's a lot to get into here, definitely here.
Yeah.
Well, I appreciate the point in the
Yeah.
call for today. You have a good one.
Thank you, Andrew. You too.
All right, with that, we got to take that next break right now. Coming out of this break, we do have more that we are going to get to, more that we will be discussing, and, well, more calls that we'll take. So, again, remember that number on the line, of course, is 915-544-5876, 544-KTSM. Back after this break with more Talk El Paso here on News Radio 690 KTSM. Stay tuned.
Traffic all day. News Radio 690.
An earlier rollover crash at I-10 westbound at Vinton has got the entire freeway closed, east and westbound at Trans Mountain, and a big backup. 65-minute delays start back at Sunland Park. Avoid the I-10 westbound if you can in the Upper Valley. I-10 westbound at Reynolds, a crash is blocking the right lane with slowing that starts back at Westmoreland. I-10 eastbound at the West Paisano on-ramp. Police on the scene of a crash there. Carrie Edwards, El Paso traffic.
Winning $1,000 incites all kinds of emotions.
Are you kidding? No way.
What to do with it is up to you.
We're going to Key West, that's it. What are you, nuts? We're going to Atlantic City.
Listen for your chance to win $1,000 with inflation compensation.
Listen for your chance to win $1,000 every hour from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. Enter the nationwide keyword at ktsmradio.com for your chance to win. Brought to you by Sunland Park, Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram, where buying a car is fun.
This report is sponsored by Walgreens. Walgreens wants to make it easy to refill your Medicare prescriptions. That's why they offer 90-day refills, refill by scan using your phone, even save a trip refills so you can pick up all your prescriptions with ease. So fill your way at Walgreens. Exclusions may apply.
Attention business owners. Stop throwing your hard-earned money away on rent. Imagine owning your own building and saving thousands every year. Sound impossible? Not if you use General Steel. General Steel can help you save thousands by owning your own custom-designed building. Just call 866-62-STEEL or visit getgeneralsteel.com to see how much money you can save with General Steel. Our buildings come with a 50-year warranty, and thousands of companies, from Fortune 500 corporations to startups, have trusted the General with their building needs.
If you need to expand or start a new business, you really need General Steel.
I'm very impressed with General Steel. Everyone's been extremely helpful. I'd recommend General Steel to anyone looking to build a steel building.
Stop wasting money on rent. Call 866-62-STEEL. That's 866-62-STEEL. Or visit getgeneralsteel.com to find out about all our popular quick construction kits, including a 40 by 60 foot building or a 50 by 100 clear span building. Just call 866-627-8335 now or getgeneralsteel.com.
This is a special alert to all Americans who own a vehicle with less than 200,000 miles with an auto warranty about to expire or with no warranty coverage at all. Due to a decline in the economy, CarShield is announcing a low-cost month-to-month vehicle protection plan that is now available to the public to save any driver out-of-pocket expenses on future auto repairs. Call now to find out how you can pay almost nothing for covered auto repairs. Yes, you heard that correctly. Pay almost nothing for covered auto repairs. An open phone line has been established for all drivers to call for a free quick quote. Call 800-989-8906 now. Drivers who are covered will not have to pay for covered repairs again. This protection plan is at an all-time low. Additionally, drivers who activate this vehicle protection today will also receive free roadside assistance, free towing, and car rental options at no additional cost. Call us for your free quick quote today. 800-989-8906. That's 800-989-8906. What do you have to lose? Call 800-989-8906. Again, 800-989-8906.
El Paso's News Radio 690 KTSM.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. To be a part of the show, call 915-544-KTSM or follow on Facebook at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I'm your host, Andrew J. Polk. Thank you for tuning in, however you may be doing so, be it on air, online, live streaming through the free and reliable iHeartRadio app, or joining us over on the various social media pages. Facebook.com/Talk El Paso is more or less the main one. There are a lot of, the majority of comments come in. Also can often be the Thunderdome comments, so forewarned, forearmed if you want to wade in there. Similar to the Skeptic Squad lives for the most part. But otherwise, if you also want to get on the phone lines, again, they'll be usually pretty full. But getting on after a call is your best option. And And that number to call, 915-544-5876, 544-KTSM. Comments coming in online as well, and those dropping those likes and reacts we appreciate, including Angel Rueda, James Ratcliffe, James Holmes, Monica Cervantes, Flaco Jimenez, Matt Olson, Ida Beza Gardner, Robbie Flores, Eric McNabb, and Stephen Christopher. Again, if you appreciate the ability to talk about the things that affect us here in the borderland, as much as we kind of do that more or less during the week, but also end up, Friday's coming. Let me just put it that way. We appreciate that in due turn, those likes and reacts, that is. But anyway, getting back to those phone lines right now, we do have Tom in Otero County on the line with us here right now. Tom, thanks for joining us.
Hi, Andrew.
Hey there. What's on your mind?
This year, you're going to see a big push by the communists, Democrats, to infringe upon the Second Amendment. That mass shooting in California that's been reported on, and right away the governor Newsom jumped up there and gave a 30-minute speech attacking the Second Amendment before the bodies even assumed room temperature. One thing the media has left out about the shooter is the guy wasn't a citizen. You know, the governor made it sound like he legally purchased a firearm and, the system's broken. Well, the shooter wasn't a citizen of the United States. He couldn't even speak English. The only language he could speak was Mandarin Chinese. You won't hear that in the media because they always have a narrative push. And I just want your listeners to know that man did not legally acquire a firearm.
I mean, of course,
you have to be an American citizen in order to purchase a firearm legally. Well, the media is not telling anybody that the shooter was not an American citizen. He did not acquire that firearm legally.
Okay, we get what you're saying there, and I think that we'll probably have, there's already been the conversation going on nationally about those potential more bills coming up. I know Dianne Feinstein has come up with that as well, so we'll see if it comes there. I just know that probably here in Texas.
Did you know, Andrew? Did you know that he wasn't an American citizen?
I definitely knew that he filled the not profile in a couple of ways, including, of course, his age, but hadn't seen that part particularly, I will say that.
You won't. And that's kind of a big part of the story, I would think. But it doesn't play into the propaganda narrative of the media. That's one reason why Americans, and we're proud to be Americans here, we have the ability to actually defend ourselves, our families. Well, they're leaving that part out, that the man was not an American citizen. And that should have been a big part of the story, and they're just not letting the American people know about that.
Fair enough here. Well, thank you for the point in the call. Do appreciate it.
Bye now.
I think we cutting out there a little bit at the end there. Anyway, tell you what, let's make sure that's not a problem on our end. Phone lines seem to be working fine here, but let's go ahead and take that next break right now. Coming out of this break, more phone calls on the line here. Again, talking about the things that are going on and affecting us in the borderland. There may be some connections in the long term, but let's just say Friday is Friday. But we got a lot going on here right now, so stay tuned. More Talk El Paso after this break here on News Radio 690 KTSM. Stay tuned.
El Paso's News Radio 690 KTSM.
Hello, I'm Erica Castillo with this KFOX 14 News Update. The memory and life of the longstanding police chief Greg Allen will be honored starting tonight. Chief Allen was El Paso's longest-serving chief as he guided the community for 15 years, including through the August 3rd Walmart mass shooting. Tonight's tribute is scheduled from 6 to 9 at the Convention Center downtown. The doors will open at 5 p.m. Allen will be lying in state to allow the public to pay their respects. Free parking will be available at the Convention Center and at the Union Plaza parking garage. The event will include an opportunity for members of the public to offer handwritten condolences to the chief's family. And at least 3 people were detained this morning near UTEP. A woman and 2 men were among those in the group stopped off of Schuster and the freeway. Our news crew saw 3 Department of Public Safety units and 2 unmarked law enforcement units. At about 4:30 this morning, Border Patrol agents and other law enforcement took those detained into custody. I'm Erica Castillo with this KFOX 14 News Update.
News Radio 690. Traffic all day.
An earlier rollover crash at I-10 westbound at Vinton has got the entire freeway closed, east and westbound at Trans Mountain, and a big backup. 65-minute delays start back at Sunland Park. Avoid the I-10 westbound if you can in the Upper Valley. I-10 westbound at Reynolds, a crash is blocking the right lane with slowing that starts back at Westmoreland. I-10 eastbound at the West Paisano on-ramp. Police on the scene of a crash there. Carrie Edwards, El Paso traffic.
From the KFOX 14 Severe Weather Center, I'm Chief Meteorologist Brad Montgomery. A cold one for tonight. Make sure you're going to be layered up, especially if you're going to be heading out tonight and tomorrow morning. Lows down into the teens and the 20s. For your Friday, a little warmer during the afternoon, highs in the lower 50s. As we look to the weekend, temperatures really jump up. We're looking at 62 for your Saturday with mid-60s on Sunday. From the KFOX 14 Severe Weather Center, I'm Chief Meteorologist Brad Montgomery.
This report is sponsored by Staples Stores. Staples has everything you need to get organized this year at amazing savings. Right now, get up to 50% off select folders, file cabinets, file boxes, and storage bins. In-store only, offer ends 1/28. Make this year your year with Staples, the working and learning store.
Attend the El Paso Gun Show this weekend, January 28th and 29th at the Forum Ballroom, 3800 Maddox, El Paso, Texas. See dealers selling the finest in modern guns, custom knives, ammo, scopes, rifles, shotguns, and much more. Buy, sell, and trade at the El Paso Gun Show this weekend, January 28th and 29th at the Forum Ballroom, 3800 Maddox, El Paso, Texas. Get $2 off admission. For more information, go to azgunradio.com.
Hey, Texas, there are approximately 950,000 individuals in Texas living with a serious mental illness, which is an individual risk factor for severe COVID-19. If you or someone you know is living with a serious mental health condition, such as schizophrenia, major depressive disorder, or bipolar disorder, make sure they know where to go this holiday season to stay safe and healthy. Visit covidvaccine.texas.gov to find resources and location information for vaccine providers near you. Stay healthy, Texas.
Crown, an innovative global leader in the material handling industry, has openings for field service technicians in the El Paso area. Join our growing team. Visit crown.jobs keyword El Paso and apply today. Crown is an equal opportunity affirmative action employer.
This report is sponsored by Crown Lift Trucks.
Imagine being denied an apartment because of housing discrimination.
It's so wrong.
But who has the power to stop this?
You do. The law is on your side. If you've been discriminated against because of race, color, religion, sex, national origin, disability, or familial status, file a complaint with HUD. Fair housing is your right.
Use it.
Visit HUD.gov/fair housing. A public service message from HUD and the National Fair Housing Alliance.
News Radio 690 KTSM.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. To be a part of the show, call 915-544-KTSM or follow on Facebook at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I am your host, Andrew J. Polk. Thank you for tuning in, however you may be doing so, be it on air, online, live streaming through the free and reliable iHeartRadio app, or joining us over on the various social media pages that we are up on these days, facebook.com/Talk El Paso, the Talk El Paso channel over on YouTube, Twitter at Talk El Paso, or twitch.tv, Andrew J. Polk. In relation to the previous caller here, I am not finding much about, I'm not finding anything on what the caller was made assertion was about the nationality of the shooter in California. I mean, we focus a lot on local issues here, so not often researching stuff going on in other locations in the country, except for like maybe the policy that comes out of them here. Most recent source, at least for the quoting right now, Washington Post has it noted that the now deceased alleged shooter in that case here was a naturalized citizen of the U.S., according to a citizenship position on Ancestry.com. So not something, I'll have to do a little bit more depth on this, but that's the initial actual research I'm finding there on it. But it's just since that call, not exactly one of the ones we were planning on talking about today, but as it is, we got Friday coming up here. Anyway, let's go back to those phone lines right now. Of course, that number to call, 915-544-5876, 544-KTSM. One of the questions coming up about actual national origin was, I think, Vietnam was where the alleged, again, deceased shooter in that case, if I'm talking about the Monterey Park one, that is, because there was a separate one that also happened in California driving part of this. But at least in that case, originated from Vietnam, naturalized in about the 90s. So that's the answer I'm finding there. Anyway, let's go back to those phone lines here right now. We do have Eric on the east side with us right now. Eric, thanks for joining us.
Okay. On the immigration issue, we must secure the existence of our people and a future for white children ideology of David Lane that you said you've studied.
The 14 words, yes.
Contextualizes your understanding of Barbara's call 2 days ago and the literature she regularly promotes here. Here are a couple of quotes from the short blog post she talked about a couple of days ago. She described as enlightened from a white supremacist with a doctorate in English, titled Our Race is Our Nation, the Balkanization of America. European Americans have no race leaders. There's no end of European Americans who belong to the ruling elite, but claiming to represent all Americans. They are not our leaders. We need candidates who will express our views. The author refers to Asians as yellows and refers to different races as different species, where one will eventually eradicate one over time. Another quote, European Americans know well that much of urban America and wide areas of the South have become the territory of another subspecies. This short blog post promotes the white genocide and great replacement narratives. And to summarize the blog post, it's a very short blog post. It's not very long at all. More non-Europeans in the country are going to destroy it. Yeah, I've never been dishonest in the slightest about Barbara's views that your listeners are all blindly defending due to political tribalism. And it took some difficulty finding this article because it's so extreme. Google filters it out of its search results. So I had to use DuckDuckGo, which I've heard the alt-right uses because it doesn't filter out these types of results. And the website that it's hosted on is called racerealist.com/nelson.htm. This is white supremacist literature that's very overtly racist. And for her to come on and say I'm using derogatory statements is just factually untrue. And it colors all of her concerns about immigration and her other sources like the Center for Immigration Studies that you've said personally is a reputable source or one that should be shared. I'm completely, and then 2 weeks ago you said you are going to ban me for being prejudiced against conservatives when Barbara is repeatedly promoting white supremacist literature and narratives.
Okay, as concerned as you are with the exact phrasing and making sure I'm quoting you correctly, I dare you to find me saying that exact phrase, that I am banning you for being prejudiced against conservatives, because I am willing to bet money, having not gone back and reviewed the tape or anything, that is not what I said. So if you're holding everyone else to the standard with what you put forth of, if they're not quoting you exactly, therefore they are misinterpreting your arguments, but you're not willing to extend that to anyone else we're talking about here, that's not exactly, well, being intellectually honest, among other things. If you're holding others to a standard you don't hold yourself to, that's not a conversation we're happening. But to the actual point here, the actual substance of it, because as much as it's just, okay, I like arguing. That's much as evident. I host this show for a variety of reasons. But if we're just going to keep going on in circles about the proceduralities of this here and not actually talk about the issues, so to the quotes that you read from this article that you sent me here that didn't seem like it was titled Our Race is Our Nation, but I see it at the top of the page there that you did share with me over on the official pages. Let me just say this, that anyone saying that the 14 words that you quoted there, the ones and any of the other dog whistles that come along with it, as sincere, and I mean, I'm willing to allow for a bit of ignorance and maybe not understanding these things. I have definitely done the research onto them because I want to know what's being talked about. So I did read the article there, and I will say that, or the blog post, however you want to put it, that the way that they come about the framing of it, the idea of, oh, by the way, we're going to see, you start coming into the ideas, mongrelization of a race. Those kind of very familiar phrases for anyone who has studied this kind of thing are reprehensible, wrong from their beginning, middle, and period. But this is also not to say that the idea of there being changes in the U.S. is therefore inherently wrong just because someone reprehensible is saying it here. It does have a cause for concern, a cause for, okay, if this is not handled right. I mean, look at some things completely separate from that have been going on more recently. You have, of course, seen the idea of, ethno-nationalism. We have seen, identity politics coming forth here. So I'm going to say that the source of this, reprehensible as it is something that is, broken clock twice a day. I don't know the right way to put it. But to say that, well, just because they say it and I hate the source it's coming from, therefore there is not anything that could ever possibly be right with it, also doesn't smack correctly here. Let me put it that way.
Yeah, and that also that article was shared many months ago by Barbara, along with another one saying Mexicans are trying to retake the southwest of the United States. These aren't just isolated articles. And on Friday, you promoted Barbara's view that this new program to sponsor refugees is some plot by Biden to for naturalized citizens to use chain migration to reduce the white to exploit chain migration.
Let me get one thing straight for you here, because you seem confused on a variety of points here. I promote no one's views but my own. So if you didn't hear me say it, or maybe coming from a guest that I then ask questions for, this does not mean that I'm endorsing it, more that it maybe should be a point of subject. And particularly when we take callers here, if you think that we're making all the callers here, all the commenters are the ones that we definitely espouse here and therefore wholeheartedly support, you realize that would then make that we are then wholeheartedly supporting and espousing yourself then, right? If you're going by that standard of it appearing on the show, means that it's not something that we just want to talk about, but want people to believe, hold near and dear, that kind of thing. That's not the point of a discussion program. So if you're confused about all of that, allow me to dispel that further for you, that because someone says something does not mean that I agree with it, because that's not how this works. We have guests, we have callers. If you don't hear me say it, don't try to attribute it to me. That's just not how this works. So if you want to take issue with an actual issue, it comes down to that. Oh, that's why this is so frustrating. If you want to talk about the issues, because all we're doing right now is the version of you suck comments or tattling to the teacher. It seems like we're kind of trying to do here that they said something bad, therefore you need to get rid of them kind of thing here. When, okay, let's just come back down to brass tacks with it. I'm not even that sure what you actually stand for as opposed to opposition to other things. So just to make this perfectly clear, we have banned no one from the phone lines here, and the only way I even intimated about banning you is if you continue to troll in the comments about saying that, oh, well, you suck. Basically what these things boil down to, as opposed to responding, addressing the actual concerns. We're not having discussion at that point. It's quibbling. And sure, some people may be into that, but that's not the focus we want to have on this program here. So let me just make that perfectly clear. And if you're actually wanting to, say, talk about these issues, as opposed to, again, what's the substance of it? Oh, well, you suck as a person and therefore shouldn't be heard from. That's never a standpoint we're going to talk about on this show. We can address the concerns that come with it. As with anything involving white supremacy, I find myself wholly opposed to it. The idea that any one race is inherently superior to the other beyond any kind of just inherent quality is just bunk. It has been proven so many times, and anyone that espouses that and thinks like, oh yeah, no, I'm definitely better than everyone else I know simply because of something they have done nothing to achieve in their lives. Nah, that's just not how life works. Anyway, I hope that helps you understand what we do here and how this works and progress here, because I'm not too sure how much to describe that otherwise. Anyway, thanks for the point of the call. For what it's worth, we're going to take at least one more before we hit that next break and tell you what we got coming up for you. We do have Frankie and Messia on the line with us here right now. Frankie, thanks for joining us.
This is hilarious. Did I hear this right? I heard bewildered Barbara going on about saying that JB is beating up on the Republicans. If I got that right. No, Barbara, he's not. He's beating up on the nut jobs like Paul Gosar and Lauren Boebert and Matt Guts and Murray Thuggery Teller Green. He's absolutely 100% spot on. And you need to get your duckies in line about that, because these people are whack jobs. They're not Americans. They're some kind of, I don't know what the heck they call it. Nah, I don't want to talk about that. I want to talk about, I sent you an email about this. You got this great state senator in Texas covering this area down around Uvalde, and he put together a bill that is pretty significant, in your face kind of bill about going out and suing state the what do you call those people? The school people, the administrations, the gun people, and the cops, because they can't do the job right in saving the kids that you people have there in Texas. And I think, I don't know how this is going to work, but I would think that's a great bill if it gets to pass, and you would save a lot of Texas people out there. What do you think of that?
Yeah, I did get the article you sent me that you're mentioning there. I do believe it's State Senator Roland Gutierrez of San Antonio, which could, of course, include the Uvalde area. That from the article you sent me, quoting directly from it, if enacted, would empower survivors of school shootings to sue Texas state agencies, allow Texas law enforcement officials to be sued for their on-the-job conduct, create a permanent compensation fund for victims of school shootings by imposing a tax on state gun sales, and repeal the Protection of Lawful Commerce in Arms Act, a federal law that shields gun sellers and manufacturers from liability. It's an interesting proposal. I got to tell you, I'm not sure it's going to go much of anywhere, at least within the state of Texas. There's not exactly these lines, but other similar-ish kind of things. I mean, there's been a lot of specific things along many of those different points, but the stuff percolating at the most point right now would be more on bans on sale, possessions, etc. I've seen some of the drafts there. So nationally, maybe at least it's percolating through, but given the, both makeup in the national legislature and, of course, the state legislature, I wouldn't hold my breath on this in this session anyway.
Well, it's a fair state of affairs. I think he's got the right idea. Now, maybe a little bit overboard on it, but I think you guys in Texas need to do this stuff. You're killing people left and right. I know Texas. They shoot everything. They got a gun. They shoot stop signs. They shoot traffic lights. They shoot armadillos. They shoot everything that's got 4 feet and anything that can bleed. And I think this guy's 100% right. That's all I want to say about it.
Yeah, fair enough. Well, thank you for the point in the call. Do appreciate it.
All right, Andrew, take care.
All right, and with that, we have to take that next break right now. So coming out of this break, tell we got coming up for you, get set up for Friday, which is what we do. So stay tuned. More Talk El Paso here on News Radio 690 KTSM. Closing out. Don't go anywhere.
Traffic all day. News Radio 690.
That earlier rollover crash is finally cleared, and I-10 east and westbound back open at Trans Mountain. All lanes are back open. I-10 westbound still pretty slow with a 35-minute delay from Sunland Park up to Vinton. An earlier crash I-10 westbound at Reynolds blocking the right lane with a backup to Westmoreland. An accident with police on the scene I-10 eastbound at West Paisano on-ramp. Kerry Edwards, El Paso traffic.
This report is sponsored by Armed Forces Bank. Start the new year right with an access loan from Armed Forces Bank. Go to afbank.com/military loan for fast approvals and flexible terms on loans as low as $750. Armed Forces Bank. This is who we are. Subject to credit approval, terms and fees apply. Member FDIC.
Why have over 2 million people trusted their bath remodels to Bathfitter? When a normal day is anything but normal, we fit your schedule with our unique tub-over-tub process installed in just a day with no demolition. When high quality is the only quality that matters, we fit your standards. We've been remodeling baths for over 35 years, and every bath we install comes with a lifetime warranty. Get the bath you want in a day with quality that lasts a lifetime. Bathfitter, it just fits. Visit bathfitter.com to book your free consultation.
Hey, Texas, there are approximately 950,000 individuals in Texas living with a serious mental illness, which is an individual risk factor for severe COVID-19. If you or someone you know is living with a serious mental health condition, such as schizophrenia, major depressive disorder, or bipolar disorder, make sure they know where to go this holiday season to stay safe and healthy. Visit covidvaccine.texas.gov to find resources and location information for vaccine providers near you. Stay healthy, Texas.
This is a special alert to all Americans who own a vehicle with less than 200,000 miles with an auto warranty about to expire or with no warranty coverage at all. Due to a decline in the economy, CarShield is announcing a low-cost month-to-month vehicle protection plan that is now available to the public to save any driver out-of-pocket expenses on future auto repairs. Call now to find out how you can pay almost nothing for covered auto repairs. Yes, you heard that correctly. Pay almost nothing for covered auto repairs. An open phone line has been established for all drivers to call for a free quick quote. Call 800-838-4715 now. Drivers who are covered will not have to pay for covered repairs again. This protection plan is at an all-time low. Additionally, drivers who activate this vehicle protection today will also receive free roadside assistance, free towing, and car rental options at no additional cost. Call us for your free quick quote today. 800-838-4715. That's 800-838-4715. What do you have to lose? Call 800-838-4715. Again, 800-838-4715.
Text and whatever. Just don't text and drive. Visit StopTextsStopWrecks.org. A message from the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council.
News Radio 690 KTSM El Paso.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. To be a part of the show, follow on Facebook at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for having joined us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I've been your host, Andrew J. Polk. We are super short timing it right now. So one more comment come in off the line there saying that, well, in parts, and this kind of leading to Free For All Friday, the caller's assertion was that the only thing wanted to be defunded is the IRS by Republicans nationally. So that's a decent enough kickoff, I guess, to get into the topics that we'll definitely delve into tomorrow. Yes, Free For All Friday. We are back on. And by God, we're going to get through it as best we can here. Joanne's over on the social media, YouTube, saying 2 free-for-all in 1 week. Yeah, that's what they ended up coming here because we definitely couldn't not do it and make up for it. I mean, as much as I talk about pressure relief valves and other ways, you think we're not going to do that on this show? You get all the topics that we're A, not able to get to, and B, that y'all are burning to. I mean, we want to be responsive as much as we can. So, yes, tomorrow we'll be taking all the calls, all the comments that we can squeeze into 2 hours on the show. Yes, we got FCC guidelines and such we got to stick with here, but otherwise, we'll be doing that both hours of the program. So a couple of things we got coming up for you, including more conversation about gun laws coming up, as well as some more of those economic analysis, including some predictions specifically for our area just in the coming year. Forecasting predictions, better than to say than predictions, because, well, there are things that could change between now and the end of the year, but we'll do our review of some of those things. So that'll do it for us for today. I do want to thank everyone that did tune in, call in, comment, participate in the show, because talking about the things that affect us here, and of course tomorrow beyond, is important to me, and I hope it is informative and interesting, and you're able to participate in as much as you can. So until then, until tomorrow, until we come back for Free For All Friday, stay safe out there, look twice for motorcycles when out on the road, and have a great evening, y'all. We'll see you tomorrow.
Traffic all day. News Radio 690.
That earlier rollover crash is finally cleared, and I-10 east and westbound back open at Trans Mountain. All lanes are back open. I-10 westbound still pretty slow with a 35-minute delay from Sunland Park up to Vinton. An earlier crash I-10 westbound at Reynolds block in the right lane with a backup to Westmoreland. An accident with police on the scene I-10 eastbound at West Paisano on-ramp. Kerry Edwards, El Paso traffic.
Hey, El Paso, Ivan Ochoa, General Manager from Sunland Park Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram Fiat. Thank you, El Paso and surrounding areas, for helping us be El Paso's #1 volume dealer in new Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, and Ram sales in 2022. Our goal is to ensure that everyone gets the best deals and exceptional trade-in offers so we can be #1 again in 2023.
Trade in and trade up for less.